This is the Stubborn German Podcast. I'm Kevin Ostie, joined by the proprietor of the Stubborn German Brewing Company here in beautiful Waterloo, Illinois, Mr. Chris Ron.
Howdy do.
Welcome back. We are also joined by our producer man, Mr. Jared Chasson. Jared, welcome back.
Good evening. Thank you.
And a big welcome back to our very first return guest.
Oh,
Miss Tammy Ron.
Hi, friends.
Welcome.
Hi, Tammy. So, Tammy's the other half of the dynamic duo that started and runs the Stubborn German Brewing Company here. And we're going to chat about a whole bunch of stuff. But Chris is looking at me like, wait a minute, pal. I've got the German word of the day.
that I do. Okay, so the German word of the day, we're going to let Google pronounce it since we all know that I can't pronounce it. So here we are. It's Kuddelmuddel.
Oh, right.
Kuddelmuddel.
Did you hear that?
One more
Let's
time.
try it again.
Kuddelmuddel.
Kuddelmuddel.
Does that end in vowels in both of those syllables?
Vowels. Yeah. No. Well, no, it would Kuddel, Moodle. It's one word. Kuddelmuddel. Ends in an L.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. Uh-huh. So what does that mean?
I think Tammy should go first.
I think so, too, because she's
I'm going to go with cuddle time.
Oh, okay.
Oh, my gosh.
Cuddle time. I like it.
Sweet.
All right.
What do you think, Kevin?
I'm going to guess it is it's cheese that tastes like fire.
Cheese that tastes like fire or cuddle time.
Okay.
And Jared?
I'm going to stick with the food theme, caramel popcorn.
Caramel popcorn. Not a bad guess.
All
Okay.
right.
All right. Well, we'll let you
see
know
at the end.
Yeah, you have to stick around so you can all find out what Kuddelmuddel means.
Nice. I'm here to provide balance because both you guys are probably right on. So here we are recording again in front of a live, I would call them studio, but it's a live bar audience.
Right. There you go.
At the
This
Stubborn
is not
German.
a studio.
No. People are enjoying themselves and doing everything they can to ignore us, which is good. But this is an interesting time for you guys. This is year number 5.
Yeah, somehow.
Yeah. And Tammy, you're getting busier and busier with a lot of the events that I'm seeing because things are opening up and you're doing more and more with that stuff.
Yeah, it's almost been like pre-COVID. I mean, lately it's just been super busy between our bourbon club and everything else we have going on here. So it's fun. It's good to be back.
It is
It's
good.
really good.
It is good. And what I like is, of course, I'm a Facebook follower, so I get the updates and I see, the pictures and the event invites and notices and all that stuff. Because you do a heck of a job with the social side.
Thank you. It's fun.
You're very welcome. And correct me if I'm wrong, I think this whole thing kind of got started on social media.
It did. Yeah.
Pretty much.
For sure.
I mean, once Chris was a home brewer, but as far as spreading the word and taking it to the next level, I mean, you used that effectively from day one.
Yeah, absolutely. Really I think our Facebook page started in the summer of 2014. And we're like, hey, let's kind of announce that we want to bring a brewery to our hometown of Waterloo and let's see how it goes. And it really developed traction, and I don't even remember how many likes we got that first day. It was something like 1,000 or something, and we were just blown away how...
Yeah, it was kind of like, wow, people really, really want some locally made, fresh craft beer in Waterloo. So it was crazy.
That is crazy, but it follows a trend that I'm noticing because Chris did a good job of being a home brewer that would, let other people sample the beer before it was commercially available, and you did the same thing. You kind of got the word out there before the bar was here, so kind of priming that pump and getting people excited, and it works.
Yeah, and what I think what this kind of all really started as I was just a home brewer, friends would I would brew about 10 gallons at a time, and as much as I would like to try, I could not drink 10 full gallons of any one batch.
He tried really hard one night. It did not end well.
He tried one night,
just that one time,
10 gallons.
Learned me lesson.
Yeah.
But I had a couple of friends at 2 different times in probably a few month period that both came to me and said, hey, your homebrew is really good. You should think about opening a brewery. And the first one I just blew them off and said, nah, that's not how this works. The second one was a little more, aggressive. Wouldn't let me just say no real quick, and you got to tell me why. Why couldn't you? What's so hard about it? What's different? And it's like, well, the equipment is way bigger, and I can't. It's apples and oranges. I can do this on a 5 or 10 gallon scale. I can't do it on a 100 or more scale gallon, obviously. So what I did, I kind of started doing some research to let him know that no, I can't do this, and I kind of found out that. With maybe a little bit of schooling and kind of start throwing some numbers together. It's like, well, I guess I probably could do this, actually. And that's kind of where it started. And then just, was able to overcome hurdles along the way, and nothing was ever too big of a hurdle to overcome. So that's how, and then it started with the Facebook page and giving away homebrew at Pumpkin Fest right outside our door on the courthouse lawn. And just kind of started a following that way.
So in the very beginning, when you kind of came to the terms with trying this, a brewery is it's a very specific type of facility that you need. You don't just call a real estate agent and say, yeah, I'm ready to jump into a brewery. Got any open ones that I can move into?
Where's your nearest brewery for sale?
Right. So how did all that shake out?
Yeah, we actually, so Chris and I we knew it had to be in Waterloo. That was our hometown. That's where we were raised. This is where we live. We love this town.
That's where our friends are, which are our customers.
Yeah. So it had to be in Waterloo. And we would really like it to be downtown Waterloo at the courthouse square, because that's, at the courthouse area, because that would just be an awesome setting. We don't really want to be on the outskirts of town or anything like that. We want some walk-up traffic to be able to come and visit us. So, we looked at a couple buildings around town, and we thought we had one that we were going to pursue further.
We did.
But,
we pursued it pretty far.
Pretty far.
Yeah, we had drawings made. We measured. We had a key to the building at one point.
Can we talk about what that is? Where that is?
I probably don't want to get into exactly where it's at.
Well, did it meet your criteria? Was it on the square and all that?
It was just off kind of the beaten path. It was on Mill Street, but it was definitely not right up here where all the festivals. It was Jabol. You got it.
I thought it was Walmart.
Right. Yeah,
but it was a big warehouse. I mean, we walked in that place, and it was dusty and dirty, and
it was
all
perfect.
All different levels of concrete for different docks, and it was like, how would we ever make this a brewery? But
I loved that about it. I loved that about it because it was so unique, had so much character. Just it was just concrete floors of all crazy different levels and brick walls and wide open in the inside.
Another older facility.
Yeah, really old.
Yeah.
And it had a nice space for an outdoor beer garden and all that. And I was in love and had a couple issues. It was near a church. And in Illinois, you can't be within. I don't remember the law word for word anymore. I used to have it memorized, but you had to be so far away from churches and schools, that kind of thing, for anything with a liquor license.
Most people I see in here are from church. It's kind of weird.
Yeah, right.
Well, I don't make the rules. I just try to follow them. But we went through so much work that I went to Jerry Costello's office when he was our rep here, and met with him. And I'm like, how do you get this law change? We started talking about like what you would actually do to change the law, because if you look in the law, it'll have all these exceptions, mainly for Chicago, but they won't spell out in the city of Chicago.
Right.
They'll say in a town with more than 1 million, or I don't know how many million,
10 million. Yeah, right.
Well, more than 1 million people, and you look at all of the towns in Illinois populations, and there's one, and it's Chicago.
Yeah.
So like basically in Chicago, you can do this, and this, and it's like, well, why not in a town with
10,000 people?
Yeah, it starts with a W and ends in an O, that we could make an exception. But
welcome to Illinois politics.
Yeah, so.
And I think that was a big step that Chris took to go and speak with our state representative and try to even see, like, how do we get this law changed, which is a giant task and hurdle. And he put on his collared shirt, which, if you know Chris,
his only collared.
Yeah, I put it on.
He does not get dressed up very often. But yeah, he dressed in his best and went and spoke with Jerry Costello, and that was like, in my mind, that was almost the point where it's like, gosh darn it, he's going to do this. Like,
that's for real.
There's no stopping him. He will change a law if he
Right.
has to.
Yeah, well, and that's impressive. I never knew that story, as a matter of fact. And so I grew up in the Chicago area, and I'm used to that kind of stuff where they pass laws when they know you're trying to do something, just so that somebody can benefit by it getting changed back, you know?
Yeah.
And I'll never forget when I first moved to California, I rented a small building for a shop, just for a little hobby shop. And we got a citation because the curb was messed up, and the city was like, "Well, that's a trip hazard," you know. And so they wrote me a ticket for it, but it wasn't my building. So I'm trying to figure this out, and I went to the city hall, and the woman, and I had lived in California for months after growing up in the Chicago area and being used to this kind of crooked politics. And I'll never forget the clerk behind the desk. "Oh, can I help you?" And I said, "Well, yeah, I got this citation, and it's not my building, and I just want to know what I need to make this go away." And she said, "Well, there's a public hearing, and you have to, if you're not the landlord, you have to bring the landlord." And I said, "How many tickets to the Fireman's Ball do I have to buy here?" And she was so offended.
Wow.
And she's like, "How dare you?" And then I realized I'm not in Chicago anymore. So it's good that you went in with the impetus to try and change the law and not just say campaign contribution, or, well, what do we got to do here?
Well, that was out of the question. All the money that I had was going towards this shiny stainless
you could have
equipment.
given 10 gallons of something at a time.
Well, then I would have totally done that. But I can be bought.
So did Mr. Costello throw you out on your butt?
No,
He was really helpful, actually.
he actually was. Yeah.
Nice.
I remember Chris saying that Mr. Costello said, "It must be important to you that you're here, so it will be important to me."
Nice.
And he's like, "Yeah, let's look into this," or whatever. But about that time is when we realized that building wasn't going to really work out anyway.
It had other issues. There was a wall that was a little iffy, and a little more construction work than we were ready to do, I think, and it had problems. But so we kind of.
So then we were devastated, and heartbroken.
I remember. Do you remember that afternoon that we left? And we officially we handed the key back. We were done with it for the first time. We were officially done with that building, and we laid in our bed and just sitting there in bed, just devastated, oh my God, what are we going to do now? We at that point we had this Facebook page. Everybody was rooting for us, cheering us on, and we had nothing.
Wow.
We even had already sold some of these. We sold a what do we even call it?
We call them founders packages.
Oh, yeah.
And it was $100, and it was a $100 T-shirt is all it was. On the day that you give us the $100, you get a T-shirt. And then we promised that once we open, we'll throw you this party, and beer's included in the party, all that stuff. So, and we had a band and all that. So we eventually did all that as we opened. But we had people that had invested in us and had nothing.
Well, tell me about what the landscape of the town square was at that point. Because what it sounds like is it perhaps felt like the one opportunity had disappeared.
Yeah, that's what we thought, because we really wanted to do a production brewery that needed a lot of space and really high ceilings and a loading dock and all of that. So that's what we were after with our first building, and that's why we had blinders on to other buildings, because we just thought that they would not work. Oh, that's too small, or oh, that would the basement wouldn't work, or whatever. So
because we were thinking big tanks, we were way bigger than what we ended up buying. We thought we were going to be doing distribution, and we're going to be in every bar and all over the place, and that was the goal. And the tap room was going to be just kind of take a back seat, and whatever we make on the tap room is what we make. But that wasn't really part of the business plan that much. It was there, but not a huge part.
And now
that's all it is.
Yeah. Fast forward to 2021.
That's
it's
what we do.
It's the complete opposite. Our focus is on our tap room and serving beers one at a time across the bar, and then we do a little distribution and canning. So
it's the exact opposite of what we thought on day one. Yeah.
You kind of grow as a business owner. So.
Yeah.
So we're obviously in. I don't want to call it, the second choice building, because I don't want it to hear me, because this really seems like choice number one the way you did it.
It's been cussed at once or twice.
So I'm envisioning Tammy walking down the sidewalk with her blinders on, ignoring everything else. Who discovered that this property was available? Because this building has been here a long time, and it's still part of the organization that owns it, right?
Yeah, so this building is owned by the Masonic Lodge here in Waterloo, and the Masons are amazing to work with. They were eager to. I mean, the building was sitting vacant for a few months, so when there's no one here, they're obviously not making any rent on it, and they use it just a few times a month for meetings and that kind of stuff. So, and they use the top 2 floors. So we occupy the main floor and the basement. And they have the 2 above us. But yeah,
I think the mayor,
Mayor Smith did.
Chris was. I mean, we were really trying to think out of the box, seeing what building would work in Waterloo. And Chris was so determined. He's like, let's try the old firehouse, which is on Main Street. Because it's got giant garage doors, lots of concrete, huge ceilings.
Well, you thought good water pressure, probably, right? good drainage.
Yeah. So Chris, we contacted the mayor and asked him about that, and that was a no-go. But he said you should really check out the Rimey Jewelers building, which is what our building was for 30 years prior to us taking it over or whatever.
Yeah.
So, and we're like, that's way too small. And he's like, just go look at it. Brian is the contact. And we ended up knowing Brian from our auto repair shop. So
yeah, it all ties back to the shop.
Always.
Always.
And so Chris called him, and Brian's like, well, I'll show you around. So
yeah, what could go wrong? We'll just show you. If you like it, you like it. If not, no harm, no foul. So we go in, and I'm looking at the main floor here, what we're sitting in now. And yeah, it's not near big enough. It doesn't resemble any brewery that I've ever been in.
Yeah.
I could never imagine this working. And
by the way, how terrible to be unique.
Right.
Now you can say that.
Well, and honestly, I mean, anybody, our local listeners who know Rimey Jewelers, it didn't look anything like this before.
No, not even close. Yeah,
walls everywhere and low ceilings, and you would never imagine this.
It was walled up, and
yeah.
And so what I when we were looking at it, I was like, well, does it have a basement? Because possibly, if it's got a decent basement under it, maybe it could still work. Who knows? But I'd been in a few of these other old buildings in town here, and the ceilings are. I mean, you have to duck to get anywhere. We looked at 2 or 3 buildings on Main Street, and they're so low ceilings. And I just assumed this would be the exact same way. Well, we go down there, and it's not. It's good 8-9 feet ceilings. And it was all dirt floor, and it was all full of about 120 years worth of construction materials and lots of backbreaking labor to just. I know Tammy's getting the shivers right now just thinking about all that.
She's already mentally gone through this and put it behind.
Yeah, for sure. Those were some hard days, but yeah. So we're looking at that, and Brian's like, I mean, if you guys want this too, we can. I'm sure we can make that work too. It's no use to us. We just store stuff here, so let us go through it and pick whatever we want, and then the rest is yours. So. And I was like, well, all right, let's think about this a little bit. So, it wasn't like we left there and we're like, that's it. It was just kind of more like, well, that's not out of the question yet. So,
and ideally at that point, I feel like we were looking for a building to buy. Like that was our goal. We wanted to buy a building. It doesn't make sense to rent because, it's just, you don't get that money back or whatever. But then Chris and I were slowly realizing, I mean, we don't have investors. It's just Chris and I. Like, we don't have the money to buy a building and to rehab it and put a brewery in it.
And buy all the brewing equipment, right.
So I guess we're just going to have to rent, which was not our first choice, but we didn't have any other options.
Yeah,
so.
there were those three. Go ahead.
But for many, many businesses, renting's a good choice because it technically doesn't have as big of a commitment financially, especially if you're going to rehab and also, long term. If it doesn't work out that this facility is the one, if you bought it,
this better be the one.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, you're in it.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, we kind of, again, we had blinders on. We didn't know what we were doing. We've never done anything. We had our shop, which we also rented, so I don't know why we were so afraid of renting, but I don't know. We kind of got over that. And basically then I guess we had your dad in, Tammy's dad, Don, had him in and okay, here's our building. What do you think? And I think he might have fallen over. Like, wow, this is going to be a lot of work.
This is going to be a lot of work.
I better clear up my schedule for the next year.
Well, let's talk about Don for a minute because your dad is such a great guy. And
thanks.
And he is. And every time I see him, he's got a pretty solid smile on his face and he's enthusiastic. What's his background that you guys tapped him to be able to help you with this building?
Yeah, so he's been a carpenter his entire life.
How convenient.
I know. And he's very skilled at his craft. He's very talented. He's does lots of finishing work. That's like kind of his specialty, which was great for us. I mean, he's not going to sit there and put roofs on houses, but if you need some really nice cabinets made or something like that, that's his jam.
Perfect.
And he was kind of getting to the point where he was almost ready to retire, but we're like, we need one more giant favor.
One last hurrah.
Yeah.
Now, when you approached him, this was very much a vapor concept at that point. Did he have input on what he was going to bring to the table if he was going to come?
I mean, I guess the way most of this worked was like we would have ideas between Tammy and I, and then the next morning, and this was like every single day during the year of construction, we would have an idea. We'd come to Don and say, okay, here's what we're thinking for this part. And he just would make it happen. And I love that about, there was a couple times where he was like, all right, that's ridiculous. Mm-hmm. Or he would say, we need to do this instead or change something. But for the most part, I mean, if we could dream it, he can do it. And he figured it out. And really awesome.
It's really awesome to have a make it happen guy.
Absolutely.
And he worked so hard on this. I mean, countless and countless hours. I mean, it's crazy. I remember one time I had both the kids. Our kids were little. They were, what, like 5?
Whatever 5 minus 11 and 9 is.
Mm-hmm. This was a while ago.
So what is that?
6 and 4. Very good.
6 and 4, which, kids are a lot of work at that age, not that independent. But I was driving by the brewery, and the kids are in the back seat, and the lights were on at the brewery. And this was at like a Tuesday night at like 9 o'clock or whatever. And I was like, oh, I guess we left the lights on. And then so I got out of the van and I walked up to the window and I saw my dad there. And he was like working on our bar at like 9 o'clock.
By himself.
Normally
it would be, hey, Chris, I'm going to go up and do this, and this.
Yeah.
Meet you there, or can you help or whatever. He just, he didn't get
he
sleep?
Said he's like, I just couldn't sleep. I wanted to get this done. And he was like up here working after he's already worked here for probably 10 hours that day.
Right.
I mean, he just like gave his all to this place. It's so appreciated.
And did you already have beer on tap? Come on.
No, He's actually a bourbon fan.
He's a bourbon guy. We didn't have bourbon here yet. So.
Well, so what I know about people like that who are professional creatives, right? Which is basically what he is. The opportunity to do a project kind of on your own, even if it's after hours, there's nobody around, it's, not risking a negative approval, like, if you're going to do this, it's going to be okay and appreciated. He was in his zone, and he probably just really enjoyed being able to do it at that point.
I think so. And it taught us a bunch of lessons. I mean, Chris's family helped out too. They helped out a lot. My dad was like just the main general contractor or whatever you call it. So
I think every single one of our family members and friends, I mean, just acquaintances, anybody that we knew, we asked, like, oh, hey, hi, Kevin, nice to meet you. Do you want to paint next Sunday?
Right.
I mean, it was anyone that could lend a hand, because that's the situation we were in.
Now, you said a year of construction time?
11 months, but,
wow.
We'll exaggerate.
So that's a long time to wonder if this is going to work. Were you stressing the whole time?
No, not at all.
I think the support we received from the community was just amazing, and they were so excited to have something downtown. I mean, there was a couple things downtown Waterloo on Main Street before. I feel like this really kind of jump-started a lot.
Mm-hmm. And people were just excited about this, and to have a community, brewery that they could call their own, and, I don't know.
Yeah. And we did a lot, too. Like, anytime there would be a festival or an event at the Courthouse Square, we would give away our home brew at it, and talk to people and give out little business cards that we would make or whatever. We'd also open our building up. That was always fun.
We did that a few times.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, like when we first got the keys to the building, once we signed the lease, we had a little party in here.
That was
people were like, how is this going to turn into a brewery? Because there's a lot of work to do.
Yeah, that's when they really knew we were crazy. But that was our get a good look at it now, because it's going to look a lot different when we open party.
And here's a hammer and a paintbrush.
And here's a hammer. Get going.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, Chris even put tape on the on the carpet.
Yeah.
There was carpet in here. He put tape on the carpet to show where the brewing tanks would go and everything, to
Nice.
kind of give people an idea. And they still walked around and looked at us like we were crazy. Like, this is a lot of work.
It's very hard to visualize the final product, especially if you're just walking in halfway through. I think the thing that's challenging is if somebody comes in and says, this is never going to work, you're not going to make this work, this is horrible, what are you talking about? But I don't think you guys had much of that, which is good.
Yeah.
And I know from an outside standpoint, so in our business, next town down the road in Redbud, we were in a mode of getting our stuff off the ground too, in many ways. But we had I don't know if you knew this, but we had a constant update on what was going on here, because at the time, a gentleman who drove a delivery, a gentleman who worked at the Chevrolet parts distributor, was also involved with the Masons, right?
Yeah.
And he was at our shop fairly often because he would help us, buy engines and things like that.
Sure.
And he was constantly giving us the update on how this was going. And I'm speaking out of school here because I'm not in the Mason organization, but they were very happy, from everything he told me, to see somebody come in and use this space that was a favorable, exciting, interesting type of client, because at some point they were thinking about leaving this building and selling it,
right,
and building their own place, dedicated thing. But that was going to be super, super expensive, and then they were not really up to the task of renting this out, because then they got to be a landlord, and who knows if it's going to be stable and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And when you guys started showing the fortitude and the vision and the quality of what was being built here, they're like, oh, these guys are in. This is on.
It really was a win-win-win. I mean, it was good for everybody.
Yeah.
We're glad we took our blinders off for this building.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it worked out. And now I would not want to be anywhere else. I feel like we have the prime location.
It really
I know.
seems very perfect, right in the middle of the square, facing the courthouse.
Yeah. When I look back on that other place, and there's still qualities about that I still love and wish that we had here. That building would have been a nightmare. Like, this is, and I don't even know how it would have went just trying to stay open. I mean, we get so much walk-up traffic here. Just people want to walk down the old Main Street, and they pop in, grab a beer or whatever, and that's I don't know. We get so much of that. I don't know if we would have gotten that over there.
Well, it's funny how things they work out, but I'm in no way saying they work out by luck. I'm not a luck guy. I don't believe in luck. I believe in action and opportunity, and making something happen. When somebody comes up and says, oh, yeah, you're lucky you got this place. Well, there is a little bit, because the blinders maybe fell off, but this luck didn't build this, for sure.
Right. It was an opportunity, and it was taken.
It was taken, yeah, and it took everybody you knew to help along, not in your traditional standpoint of, I'm just trying to envision the opposite. So the opposite is, we got venture capital. We hired an engineering firm to design it. There was a build schedule, and on May 1st they broke
that was
ground.
not it.
Yeah, and we've got a projected opening on June 15th, and and everything and you stand back with your clipboard and nod your head.
Yeah, start hiring staff. Yeah,
and that's not how it goes. And this is such a classic small town story, because everybody knows each other and everybody wanted to help out and they're enthusiastic about it, and the success is amazing.
And half the town was here helping to build it, so
yeah,
I feel like it.
so. Everybody's got to piece of the action.
Your dad helped, general contractor and friends and family helping build, but you also said you've got massive tanks and plumbing and all this stuff that probably most people know nothing about. How did you get all this equipment lined up and set up? And that's probably nothing you ever did homebrewing, right?
Right. No. Well, so we had to find the equipment first. That was the crazy part. Was brewing equipment can vary hugely in price and quality and that kind of thing. We were really lucky to come up. Lucky, there was an opportunity to purchase some really good equipment. There was a brewery in Two Harbors, Minnesota, right outside of Duluth, And there's a website called probrewer.com, and it's basically it's a forum message board or whatever, and it's got a for sale section. And I was on it all the time, and so here popped a new one, and it was complete turnkey 3-barrel brewery. And I'm like, ooh, that's kind of in our 3-barrel, so that'd be about what I was kind of thinking. I was thinking
For
maybe
this building.
for this building, yeah, for sure. And the price was right too, and that was actually a pretty decent price for everything that came with it. And so that brewery was actually upgrading to a 30-barrel brewery, so they're going 10 times bigger. And so they couldn't use they couldn't use the pumps, the keg washer needed the beer, everything that they were using was not going to work for a 30-barrel brewery. So we got their glycol chiller, we got their air compressor, all that stuff.
Yeah, and
so that was nice.
And that's a great scenario because it's not like, oh, this is our old worn out stuff and we're just replacing it with new. This is going great, but we physically cannot use it.
Yeah, it's just,
and it makes good beer.
Yeah.
And at that point, they were just selling growlers out of their
you call it a tap room, but it was a garage. I mean,
it was like a shed.
Yeah,
but they were just selling growlers. You couldn't even go there and buy a pint of beer. You'd buy a growler and take it home.
Everything they made was sold in a growler.
There you go.
Crazy. But that was kind of the point where we knew, okay, we're really doing this because we, before that, we started the Facebook page, we did this and that, we were looking at buildings, we were kicking tires, but that was the purchase of so literally me and my buddy Garrett drove up to Wisconsin or Minnesota. The other Wisconsin,
we drove to Wisconsin. We said we're in the wrong place.
We said keep going.
And then we turned left. And
I'm that doesn't sound right. So we drive up there on one day. We look at the equipment. I've got money in my hand. Give it to him. Leave the equipment because I took Tammy's minivan and drove back home with no money and no equipment
because it wouldn't fit in the truck.
Because it wouldn't fit in the minivan. And then my uncle had a shipping service, a tractor trailer, and all that. And he went up and got it a few weeks later, but that was a little. But that was kind of the time, oh my God, we're doing this. We're gonna go up there and give some dude some money, and
you're not just renting a neat building at that point. You are a brewer, or you better be.
It's a big cashier's check.
Right. Well, and to Jared's point, as I look across the bar over to the brewery section, that's a total custom install. Right? That's not I'm going to download the instructions and I put this together. So how did it come together? Literally come together.
Well,
it first came together in our garage.
Yeah, we
at our house
made some beer in our garage. I grabbed the boil kettle, the mash tun, and one fermenter and one bright tank. Put that all in our garage. So we could make one batch of beer all the way through. We put the keg washer in there, and we put the glycol chiller out on the back patio. We had
that thing was heavy.
Yeah, it was.
It's another advantage of living in a small town, rural community. You can do that kind of stuff.
Yeah, and we made 3 or 4 batches of beer in the garage just to be able to go through the motions and see how things worked. I had never made a batch of beer that big, so. Then when it came time to move things in, I knew certain things. That's why we have our tanks up on that ledge. It's about 2.5 feet high. I don't want to bend down all the way to the ground to work on this stuff. If you have to do that all the time, are you really going to spend that much time cleaning if you're on the ground? So now I can comfortably take my time and clean the heck out of that thing. And
the design had engineering.
Engineering.
German.
So once you got now we're talking about timing. So, I'm envisioning a chef that has to make sure everything hits the table and it's all hot. So you've got the tanks, you've got the rest of the building, and then there's all the outside stuff. There's the legalities and, insurance and all of that at the same time.
Yeah, that was all part of it too. And thankfully Tammy and I work as a really good team, and we just kind of, if it was grunt work, something needed to be moved, I took care of that. And if something needed, insurance taken care of or whatever, Tammy was all over that. And
I feel like with our auto repair shop, we really learned to get in touch with the right people, and we had a really good support system around us. So it's insurance. Okay, well, our really good friend's dad is an insurance agent, so we're going to go to him. And we just, I don't know, it just kind of all came together because we knew the right people, I feel like.
Yeah. So before you start your brewery, I would recommend starting an auto repair business.
Naturally.
And then find a place that you really like, but don't get that.
Yeah,
one.
don't get that one. Get
Yeah.
the next one.
Well,
That's the secret to success.
But it's been fun. It's been a journey for sure. I think the icing on the cake, besides getting the equipment in and all of that, was we had a thank you party. We called it a Dankeschön party for all of our friends and family who worked on the building, and we just gave them free beer and free food and had a big party.
Yeah. And that was
And that was in April of 2016.
Yep. And then we opened a week or two after that. So
Yeah. And we did it.
how did you put together the initial staff?
I think I did a Facebook post.
yeah,
I think so.
sounds about right.
Yeah.
I don't remember.
Just said, hey,
They
we're
just-
hiring, and
Yeah.
Yeah.
and you're so now you're interviewing for positions that you've never had before, bartenders.
Yeah. Yeah, it was a lot.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
Talk about a
What
learning
is the other staff? So obviously bartenders, but what else is going on behind the scenes that maybe not everyone knows about?
I mean,
Well,
basically,
when we first opened, that was it.
Yeah,
It was
I
just
did.
Yeah.
I did
bartender-
all
yeah.
the brewing, and if it had anything to do with beer, I did it. Tammy did all the managing, and then just bartenders, and then we kind of slowly added help along the way. Josh, one of our bartenders, kind of mentioned that he also wanted to get into brewing a little bit. So, and he still does the same thing every week. He comes and kegs beer and cleans the tanks and cleans the kegs, straightens up the walk-in cooler, all that. It's all stuff that just needs to be done, and I'm only one person.
Yeah.
And now we also have Jeremy, who's our he's basically our full-time assistant brewer, but he's probably responsible for a lot of the beers on tap right now. Honestly, I mean, I come in and start the brew day, and he finishes it up, and yeah, we both have to be locked in, or bad beer gets made.
Right. Well, the ace in the hole is always that you do brew a great beer that is enjoyable and people like, and
Thanks.
so the demand was there. And I think it's kind of funny when you look at national chain places that try to be local.
Yeah,
so
right.
so you got the restaurant with the high school
Yeah.
picture on the wall of
Yeah.
the sports team and a pennant flag for the local whatever. And this isn't that, because this is legit. This was built by the community and it serves the community. And honestly, I think it was a piece of context that was missing here, because this is a primarily German descendant, community
Area, yeah.
And to not have something that kind of nods to their heritage, it wasn't here.
Right.
And other things were here that were good for doing what they do, but that piece of the puzzle was missing. So I think it just kind of clicked, and you guys really never looked back. So that's
We saw that as our opportunity. Like that was the hole that was that was not filled in at that point, and it's like this is kind of just a duh situation. I mean, like I love making German beer. I thought I was pretty good at it on a homebrew level, and yeah, it's like, well, if we're going to pick a theme, like, well, how do you not do a German theme in a German town? Like, it was just kind of like, okay, here we are.
Jared, I don't know if you know this, but Chris told me the number 2 concept was a year-round Halloween bar.
Yeah.
Oh, all right. Yeah. I mean, that could have worked.
Yeah, and it was the makeup thing that got to him.
Yeah, it was irritated my face.
Well, and the other cool thing is you've incorporated into the names of some of the beers local stuff that's in the area. That people can identify with, and
Right.
if
If you're from here, you know exactly what Peterstown is and Bellefontaine and all that.
Yeah.
But if you're not, maybe it inspires you to maybe just do a quick Google search and figure it out. And
well, and as we've discussed on this show before, the mission of your staff is to be welcoming and not exclusive, and not stand there and say, well, you don't know.
Right.
You can't have it.
Right.
So, to tell those stories and make people feel welcome, and then
Absolutely.
then your patrons feel like they got an in, a connection.
Yeah, they know all about it. I know.
Yeah, that's really cool. Well, you guys, it's an amazing place, and sometimes it's hard to step away and look at it from outside the box, but I think every once in a while it's neat to walk across the street and turn back around and go, wow, we kind of did this.
It is, yeah. Sometimes I can't believe that. I mean, literally, we did this. Like, we're just normal people.
Yeah.
I always say, like, I just want to make beer. That's all kind of my line all the time. Like, somebody wants to interview us for some article, or Tammy's on TV again for some crazy thing she thought up, or whatever. And it's like we didn't ask for anything. I just want to make some beer.
Right. Well, the takeaway is that this is very encouraging for people that have a vision or a dream about something they want to do. You can do it. And it's not easy. And be prepared to maybe lose the blinders every once in a while and make sure that you work to establish a network of friends and trusted businesses and family that can help you out, because you're going to need every resource you got. But again, the testament is that you're able to pull it off. And I know that every day is a new day, and you're still. It's not like you're sitting back and watching this thing run itself, because it doesn't do that.
That's no lie.
No. And I think that's also cool, though, that as a patron, you can come here and talk to Chris and meet Tammy and kind of be a small part of the thing as it grows and as it exists.
Make suggestions. We've made all kinds of beer because someone said, hey, this would be a fun beer. And, well, all right, I can maybe do that. So, it happens.
Very cool. Well, it's a great story, and it's nowhere near done, which is what I love.
Yeah.
Tammy's like, oh my gosh.
We got to keep going.
Tammy's challenging to think of more events, but you do such a great job of it, and it's like, wow, that looks like fun. So everybody is turning blue from holding their breath, trying to wait for the German word of the day, which, again, I got wrong. I'm telling you.
I don't
go
know.
for it.
That's correct. Okay, so I'll just let the cat out of the bag right now. None of you are right.
Go figure.
But a Kudelmoodle is a chaotic mess. And,
which is synonymous with cheese that tastes like fire.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's the same thing.
A chaotic mess.
Did you
Chaotic
pick
mess.
that for this episode?
I kind of did.
Because that kind of explains our
wording.
whole
That was-
building a brewery thing.
That was that whole year.
It's
Nice.
been a chaotic mess.
It was a Kudelmoodle.
I'm hearing a beer name.
Yeah, there you go.
Kudelmoodle. Okay, no, that'd be bad. You don't want a chaotic mess of a beer.
But you might.
Maybe you would. Maybe it could be fun.
Yeah. Or well, we'll get there. Well, that's super cool. Thanks for sharing all that. And if you enjoyed listening to this story, there's more from the past, and there's more to come. If you hit the subscribe button wherever you're listening to this podcast, magically in your email, you'll get a little ding, and more will come your way. So that's pretty cool. We appreciate you tuning in. Make sure you follow the Facebook page, because you'll find all of Tammy's hard work of sharing the fun stuff going on at the brewery, the events, and it's not just events on the page. There's news about different beers that are coming out. There's fun questions and opinions. It's very engaging. It's a good page to follow, and especially if you like good beer and if you like bourbon. So this was a really great story time, and I appreciate the opportunity to join you guys. So for Tammy Ron, Chris Ron, and Jared Chasson, Prost.